All right. Well, I am not going to take up much of your time. Just want to welcome everybody to the second iteration of AgileTO. We think we've got a great lineup for you, and Gillian will tell you more about that in a minute. I guess I'm Tom Somerville. I work for the Government of Ontario. I'm a Scrum Master for a couple of initiatives there, one old, one new. And this is our second round of AgileTO, and hoping that you all have a great evening. And with that, I'll pass it over to Gillian.
Okay. Hey, everyone. Welcome again. So glad that you're all here. I work at Rangle as a Scrum Master, and I'd just like to thank Rangle for hosting this event. I'm going to tell you a bit about some training that we've got coming on this month. We've got some Angular 2 training here on site, as well as React training and some online webinars. So if you're interested, you can find out more about it on our website. Any questions about recruiting? You can speak to Roop over here. Yep. Hi, Roop. And that's Dale. He's one of our Agile leads. Great. Thanks. Okay, so today I'm going to be speaking about retrospectives, and then we're going to practice two of these activities in breakout groups. I've run retrospectives for Scrum teams in a variety of industries, one including geosciences. Natalie was on one of my teams. Nice to see you here, Natalie. Currency exchange and also retail. So I'm really excited to share with you some of the things that I've learned. So let's get started. Okay, so what is a retrospective? So a retrospective is a Scrum team meeting. As you likely know, it occurs at the end of a sprint, right after the sprint review and before the planning. And it's Scrum. It closes the Agile feedback loop. In a retrospective, you consider what went well and what you might like to change in the upcoming sprint. Retrospectives are also really valuable for teams that may not be doing Agile. You don't have to be an Agile team to use a retrospective and improve your performance. So I really like retrospectives because they create a regular time and space for people to meet and talk about how things went. Some of the outcomes that I see from my retrospectives are changes to our team working agreement or our definition of done. The really great thing about that is that it grants ownership of the process to the team. It's not something that's dictated by a manager or someone external to the team. Now, we all have busy schedules, and we know how hard it is to round everyone up to attend a meeting. And I'll be honest, there are times when we're running retrospectives, and I'm thinking, is this really going to be worth it? And more often than not, I'm really pleasantly surprised by the thoughts that surface and by the ideas that the team comes up with. So I'd highly recommend it. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the typical flow. Usually starts with a check-in. This is a picture from one retrospective that I ran last week. It's simple. It's one word to describe how the team is feeling. And you put it in a category from sad to super happy. Actually, I learned this technique from Dale. This can be really valuable because each person in the team can talk about how the sprint went for them, just as an opener. Second step is to gather data about the sprint in a little bit more depth. And we're going to practice two techniques to do this today. One is called timeline, and the other one is called speedboat. Next, you'll typically generate some insights on, from seeing all the data, and then you'll decide what to do. To decide what to do, you can use one of the techniques that we practiced in our very first meetup, the deduplicating and dot voting. And that in turn can prioritize what you're gonna change in the upcoming sprint. Something that I like to do that's not part of the official retrospective flow is to just do a consensus check at the end of the retrospective to ensure that everyone on the team is really bought into what we're doing moving forwards. And a really easy way to do this is to do what's called a fist of five. We practiced this in our first meetup, and just gets everyone on board for moving forward. If you don't have great buy-in or consensus, then you can adjust what your action items are, and then check again. Okay. So let's get into these activities. So the first activity is called the timeline retrospective. We're going to choose a really simple story that the team is familiar with. It could be a childhood story or a movie, so something like The Three Little Pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, Star Wars, depending on what your team is familiar with. Okay? So this is how it works. Each person's going to use these stickies and tell the events of the story on these stickies, and without talking. Some stickies will be for good events, and other stickies will be for bad events. And then we're going to place the stickies on the timeline in your work area from left to right. Events on the left side being earlier, and events on the right side being later in your sprint or your release or whatever time period that you're looking over. You'll put good events above the line. You'll put not so good events below the line. So just have everyone's stickies fit along the timeline, and then discuss. So your facilitators are going to answer your questions about the activity and work with you to do it. So stand up for this activity. We're going to split into groups. I think we can do smaller groups of like 5 to 7 people. There's going to be one facilitator per group. Can the facilitators put up your hands or come to the front of the room? These are your facilitators, okay? They're going to have your supplies, and they're going to help you time box or keep this activity to 10 minutes each. And when the time box is over, you're going to discuss any surprises, any patterns, any takeaways, and put up the green sticky when you're done. I know this is a lot to take in. Just take it one step at a time and enjoy, okay?